Welcome back to PaperTrails. It's your boy Mohammed, joined by my co-host Shamwaki.
Absolutely.
How you doing today?
Good. I don't know how you had that thunderclap that knocked the microphone down.
What? You knocked it? Yeah,
I respect it, bro.
you know,
Hey,
been in the
buddy,
gym
to-
lately. Yeah, in the gym. I was in,
nah,
I
I'm
was in
good, bro.
Egypt, strengthening up, you know.
Yeah, damn right.
So today we're going to be talking about, I'd say, quite an interesting topic for the average person, let alone the creative or the storyteller. Like, when I say average, I mean any man, you know.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about posthumous success and the idea of whether you continue doing what you really want to do or what you're doing now, if you knew you're going to die and you aren't going to be successful in that way. So this is the question I wanted to address with you.
Yeah.
I did a bit of research, read up on a few people that mostly saw like well-known worldwide publicity or success after they died.
Yeah.
Mainly in the literature or the creative area. So like the likes of Vincent van Gogh, the guy who wrote Moby Dick, Melville, a couple of other people like Emily Dickinson, Franz Kafka. They're both writers. And then you got like the biggies of this world, Tupac's. They were successful, but if they hadn't died, who knows where would their career trajectory have gone?
Yeah, what level they would have gone up to, huh?
See, like Nas now, he's not really talking about, but he was like massive at that time. You know, even Jay-Z now, no one really like they just see him as a bit washed, like Beyonce's husband. But back in the day, the guys, people respected him, you know. I wanted to have that discussion with you. We talked a bit about it before the podcast started, and it's going to be interesting hearing your take on this one. And I don't even know.
Topic.
I don't even know where I'm going to go with it
Yeah?
in terms of my own opinion on that. You know.
We'll find it as we go along.
Yes, sir. So to start with, I want to ask you, like, what does success mean to you in your creative pursuits? How would you define it? Like, if you were to be successful, what does that mean for you?
Okay.
What does it look for you?
I think, so I would say it's essentially what would want to attain, which is when I was first writing and books and stuff like that, I would listen to a lot of George R. R. Martin interviews.
Yeah.
And he would be sitting in these nice like places, auditorium stages, where the keynote speaker or the interviewer guy, he's proper fascinated by this guy's works and his stories and the people in the stories as if they are, you know, like real people, asking about their lives and their history and whatnot. And then on top of that, the fans and the audience that are listening, as he gave his like first chapter of the new book that hasn't come out in like God knows how many years, since like 2011, and just how rapt they were by all of that. So I would say that encapsulated basically people that not moved, but like that interested in your work, that they're willing to come and listen to you just speak about your work. You know what I mean? That to me would be a level of success, because that means it's now starting to move people and they're like actually internalizing my words.
So you're saying is you want a fan base?
Not necessarily a fan base, because that could happen with not a whole crowd full of people. It could just be even like 20, 50 people of like genuine people that have actually.
So if there wasn't like, if there was like 3 people that read your
hell
book.
no. Yeah, 3 people. I worked too hard. You 3 better walk out of here.
You say like they better fill this room at least.
Hey, I mean, well, when you say success, it will be that.
So
I feel like success is maybe my perception of success is different to other people. I think
of course, that's why I'm asking you.
Success is more so towards the end.
Yeah. The end of what?
End of your work. So your completion. So like I've started something, wrote a book, finished the book, is out there now. It would be, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be straight away, but eventually it would happen where now people are coming to be like, yo, tell us more about this book, tell us more about this thing here. We're so enthralled by this and this and that, which I feel like can also happen at the start. Like, for example, if we made a short movie, it goes to Cannes and people like this, yo, well done, this is a great movie and whatnot, asking about it. But if people are willing to see my next pieces and pieces after that, and just like my way of making stuff, then I'll be like, okay, wow, this is a level of success, because now it's a core audience that are waiting for something to be had, you know?
So if that core audience didn't emerge for you, that's why I'm asking you, like, would you feel you're unsuccessful?
Yeah.
Like, completely, like, that's it. Like, it was a waste of time.
Well, I feel like, obviously, I would like it myself. I've made the thing, so I like what I've made.
Yeah.
But I would feel like if it's not really hitting like that, then how good is it actually? Do you know what I mean?
So you think you need internal and external validation for it to be confirmed that it's good?
Yeah.
Basically.
I think the longevity of it, yeah.
So you want to leave something behind?
Yeah, like that's what it would kind of have to be. You know what I mean? Like it's for example, like there would be. I remember like how I used to dress as a kid. I thought it was sick. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah,
right? I was like, yo, this is it. I look really good right now. And then I'll just be outside and nothing's happening. It's just a normal day. But my mom was like, no, this isn't good. You need to like change this up and do this and that. And I was like, nah, I don't think you understand how it fits. And she's like, no, just do it. And then, some people were feeling the boy.
Yeah, of course.
Not even like girls or anything. It was just like, my guys, this is actually it. And I was like, okay, maybe I've got the wrong perception of what looks good on me. And so it's kind of like I might put something out and I think, yo, this is it. And then other people might be like, actually, it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like the guy that made The Room. Yeah. Have you seen that movie? You know?
The one.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah. That's shocking.
I did not do it, Lisa. That one. Like, he thought that was so good.
I think we need to review that one as well.
Yeah, we might need to. But he thought that was sensational. But obviously, it became a cult for being so bad.
But that's the internal validation that he found in himself, though.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, if you don't have that,
so I need to. So I was in a way, I was agreeing with what you were saying.
Yeah.
It would need to be the internal one will be there, but the external one is definitely what I feel like would grant it to be successful.
So you're saying you wouldn't be successful without people validating your idea, a certain amount of people?
Yeah, I think that's how, in a way, success works. Is it not?
It's a weird one, isn't it?
You could start a business if nobody buys it.
Nobody buys it, but that's dependent on if you're just trying to make money, bro.
What do you mean?
Like if you're just trying to make money in the business, then there's different idea, there's a different purpose or intention behind why you started the business. You get?
No, but I'm saying, okay, people that are externally validating it are buying your stuff.
Well,
or do you mean they're just saying? Or you mean they're just saying like, well done?
Nah, I'm saying like whatever kind of props they give to you, whatever credit, whether it's financial or whatever. Yeah. If those people aren't there, you're saying you wouldn't feel successful.
Yeah, I mean, if it's only like my family that's like, well done, then I wouldn't feel as successful, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, because obviously, like, in terms of success in itself, like, if you don't feel successful, would you be unhappy? Would you be unhappy?
I would be unhappy. I would feel like it hasn't worked. That's how I would feel about it. So, like, again, like, it's probably warped, but I feel like if I put a lot of effort into writing and doing this and doing that, I would want people to be interested in it. I would want people to be like, yo, this changed my life, or this like done something here, or this and that. Like where, for example, if I was to give a talk about the book, people would actually be willing to come. Yeah. That's how I would...
It's interesting. It's an interesting topic because for someone who's a creative, I feel like that's because like creatives, I feel like they're very inclined towards doing things for the heart of it, for the passion of it, you know. Yeah. And that's why a lot of people are doing it in that way. So a lot, like when I was researching a lot of these guys I mentioned before, I had known that kind of idea to be the case for a while, like Van Gogh, apparently he only sold one painting out of like 2,000 paintings that he'd painted in his life, all this. And then I read into it a bit more, and then it kind of changed my whole perspective on that as well, because it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true. Van Gogh only selling one painting. But the main reason I'm addressing is because, like, I think ultimately, if you're like, let's say the question of if you knew you were gonna die on a certain date, and you knew that other people hadn't come to appreciate your work, would you say that all your life's work was a failure? That's kind of where I'm coming back to. So what would you say to that now? That question.
I feel like that would be I don't know. That feels a bit different.
But the concept of it is kind of the same.
It's kind of
just
the
at a
concept.
bigger scale.
Like, okay, so now let's say I've been putting stuff out for so long.
Yeah.
It hasn't popped.
Yeah.
And I've come to my deathbed.
Yeah.
Would I feel like a failure, yes or no?
Yeah.
I'd feel like...
You say it hasn't popped in the eyes of the general public.
Yeah.
You haven't received some
Like,
kind of audience.
No
credit.
one cares.
Yeah.
I'd feel like, that's it, I didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't regret it because I've tried to do it. I would have hated it more if I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I would feel like I failed.
Mm-hmm.
I would like, maybe it just wasn't resonating enough, you know?
So do you think that's healthy in your pursuit of doing something now? Like,
No, it's definitely not. It's absolutely. But the thing is, I would say one thing that I do know about me is that I would constantly be creating anyway.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I just really like writing stories, telling stories, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of, I guess, the stuff kind of around it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I guess I wouldn't be interested or writing as long had it been for the money. I would have just been like, okay, let me just write something up and then try sell it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because I actually genuinely like to do it. So that's on the one hand. The other hand, whether that's become successful or not, I don't think that's up to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think that part I've got the control of if it becomes successful. I can feel like this is good body of work.
Yeah.
But if it becomes successful, and that's not, it doesn't feel like it's up to me.
All right, so
What about
one
you?
last twist to the question.
Okay, go on.
I mean, I mentioned it before when we were before when we were eating.
Yeah.
So if you knew your death date and you knew that you weren't going to be successful, would you continue doing it? In the restaurant, you said no. But like, in all honesty, would you continue doing it? Would you continue creating?
I think I
And
would.
try and put stuff out there?
Yeah.
But you didn't. But you knew that you wouldn't make it. Like if you had a time
I
machine,
would. For sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
Why?
Like I said, there's, I don't know. There's I don't know what it is. It's almost sometimes to the point of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
To where I'm like, yo, I've got to put something out. It's like this weird itch
Yeah.
of like, and it mostly happens as well once I'm consistently putting something out.
Mm-hmm.
To stop putting it out, it just feels illegal almost.
So
And
like, do you feel better after you put something out?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's like there's a rush in it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
Adrenaline,
is.
yeah.
There's a
Dopamine.
hit. There's that dopamine hit, bro. I mean, I ain't done the snow, but I feel like it's similar. You know, when you put something out there, and the thing is, it's like we've put stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't received the, I would say, grand success or adulation, but it's never like been a case where we're like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't working out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe this isn't it. So I think in that is the kernel of like truth that we, in a way, do this for us more so than we actually do it for people's outside validation.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So for me, I think I'm naturally inclined to that. I've always made something all the time, and even like the last few months, I was picking up sewing and all this, and like you said, it fulfilled the itch. Even if I didn't end up putting it out there, I still felt a lot better doing it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it feels even better when you put it out there. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And later on, you're like, "What the hell is this nonsense?" Well, you know what? Some things you see,
Yeah.
something you see that you put out there, and you're quite proud of it as well. I think that's the deepest. So I think success is obviously a very vague term, it's a very general term, because all those little things you can kind of consider them all little moments of success as well, can't you? But yeah, for me, I think I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would continue if I knew I'm gonna like die at a certain date, and I knew that it's not gonna be a success.
Well,
I don't think I would.
You don't think you'd write like little short stories?
I don't think I'd put stuff out.
Really?
Yeah, period. I don't think I'd even share my work.
Okay, but for example, the sewing thing.
Yeah.
Did you put it out thinking something was going to happen from it, or it was just the thing that you needed the itch you needed to scratch?
I put it out thinking,
because you initially even said you wanted to do the sewing as the only thing that you didn't want to start putting out. Yeah. Because then it would start becoming a chore.
Yeah.
You know, you wanted your own passion outside.
And then I put it out.
And then you put it out.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, you don't think you'd find more of that?
I think when I put it out, I was thinking, let me just document. You know, we talked about that as well. I said I was going to document me learning how to sew, so then later on, that would be something that I'm like a lot of thing in my skill set. You know, like just he knows how to do this.
Yeah,
I think there is definitely a lot of external validation. That I don't know if it's the general, like anyone who's creative like needs this. But I think it's very,
if that got 2.6 million views, boy, you'd be sewing every day. You'd be sewing right now.
We're talking it in, 100%.
You'd have had the tool knitting stuff. You'd be doing it right now.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
But then again, would I? Like, I say that as a joke that 100% I would. Yeah. But like when I talk about like the jobs that I had done, I knew that every month, like it was the last 9 years, every month that whether I do a good job or whether I do a bad job, as long as I keep turning up, I'm gonna get paid regardless, right? And there was certain good feeling about getting paid. Everybody knows that, you know. Like when you get paid, there's like that when that money hits your account, it feels good, doesn't it? It feels nice. But then you're just like, I can't be bothered. That's so long, but you still keep on turning up. Whereas would I do that with a creative pursuit? Because oftentimes, like I'll even be dealing with a freelance client or whatever. I don't know if I should be saying this, but I took their money already, or their deposit, right? And then I'm like, I could do this 1 week, whatever. And I start doing it. I'm just like, oh, this is long, man. Should I just return their money?
Yeah,
that's what it gets to. Because I'm just like, I think ultimately, funnily enough, like as I was reading through all of these different people and stuff, I think a lot of people they don't want to be stuck in a box. So the idea of success being whether you made it in one certain avenue or not is feel kind of wrong to me, because I kind of want to dabble in a lot of different things and do them well. Yeah. So I don't think like if I knew like, oh, I'm not gonna make it as a graphic designer or whatever, I don't think I would continue. I'll be like, there's other things that I enjoy that could make some more money out of whatever, and enjoy and succeed in it, and potentially make into a career. And then I still would, I would still have a sense of satisfaction and happiness out of it, you know? Yeah.
But so then would that mean you'd stop graphic design entirely?
Yeah.
Really?
I was like, what's one of this?
No, I mean, obviously you'd have
I'll incorporate it in my like other things.
You might have like a job, that you'd be like, okay, now that I know I'm not gonna make it in this, let me just stick to this lane. Yeah, come on, Saturday afternoon, you might wanna.
What I failed to say in that last answer was just like when I was reading up on all these people, a lot of them were, like you said before in the previous episode, Renaissance people that were doing a lot of different things and doing them very well. Like Van Gogh himself. Like he was painting, but then he was doing all sorts, and like he's always complementing his painting with other stuff. Like he was learning Chinese sculptures and all this other stuff,
and Japanese like style of painting.
Yeah, exactly. And this is how movements keep evolving over time. This is how different cultures are created, because people take things in from outside, they leave what they're doing and they try a new thing, and then they see how that goes, and then over time a lot of those people aren't just doing one thing throughout the whole career. And I feel like a lot of the time when we think about success, it kind of comes back to that, like you succeeded in one thing, and that's where like that's my idea of success. Like I kind of guess like I succeeded in this, but I don't think I ever want to be like that, you know. Like I think I'm always going to be someone who dabbles in a lot of different things, and like and I guess if I make money out of it, ultimately, if I can just make a living, I'll be happy with that, because that's what I'm saying. Like,
so then, what would success be to you?
I think if I can make a living without struggling, and I can just dabble in a lot of different things, which isn't ideal, because everybody knows like the jack of all trades, master of none. It's not on average. On average, it doesn't really work well in this current society that we live in, right?
It depends.
for the most part, there's always some kind of central specialism that.
It's true.
Like people talk about like Kanye West, for example. Like obviously, forget his tweets in the last few months or whatever, but. Like he was obviously had this very, very clear specialism from the beginning, and he stuck to that, and then now he done it all his clothing and all this other stuff, and people know him worldwide as a very creative person who succeeded in all his kind of creative endeavors. But you can see in his like documentaries and stuff, like he struggled a lot. Even now, you can see mentally he's probably gone right now. So it's a bit of a weird one, and that's the funny thing. Another thing, when I was reading up on all these people, I want to go through each of them in a bit more detail. But a lot of them had like mental health issues. A lot of them struggled. Angle brother had syphilis and gonorrhea, man.
God damn.
Yeah, man. Angle was going through it, bro.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
and the whole ear cutting off thing. I read about the story about his ear getting cut off. Do you know what happened to him?
He just did it himself, no?
Yeah, bro. Angle was a very interesting character. But you know what? We'll go into that. What were you gonna say before?
I forgot what I was gonna say, but that's ridiculous, bro. But even Scott Fitzgerald as well, you know what I mean? His one is I think you know what's interesting before we go into them a lot. I think the kind of similar thing or comparison that I have about them, which is kind of interesting, is like obviously with Scott Fitzgerald who wrote Great Gatsby, the book popped after he died. Kafka as well, his works got picked up again after he died and stuff like that. And sometimes people are making stuff, like you might be making stuff, but your generation might be like, oh, this isn't. Yeah. But then
the current culture.
Yeah. And then it was kind of like the Star Wars, the prequels. They called us the sleeper generation because at the time all the critics were obviously older. We were like 8. All the critics were older and they were saying this is garbage. Anakin guy can't act. He's this. He's useless. He's that. And it took them like 20 years to then have this robust fan base that was like, oh my days, I loved Anakin. He was my favorite character and this and that, so much so that it was enough influence to actually make the Kenobi series. And I just find it interesting how like sometimes it just might be the case that the best work that you're doing now might not even be for the people that you have now. And so would that also stop me, which is something that I've also kind of like asked myself, and it's probably like no. I think if I knew dying that nobody was going to like read it in our generation, it still wouldn't stop me. So I feel like that's my biggest nugget that I have that keeps me going throughout all of this, because I kind of know as far as creativity, as far as writing, as far as storytelling, and like there isn't much that would stop me. And it was the same thing Simon Cowell was told when he started his thing as a little kid. A guy told him, listen, this industry can take...
What the hell did Simon Cowell actually get famous for?
All sorts of stuff. But he started off like sneaking in, becoming one of these like people that play artists' tracks to like radios and try get money that way for the artists and themselves.
Okay. Promoter, then, basically. Basically a promoter.
Yeah, exactly, a promoter. And then afterwards, he started working more into the industry, record labels, this and that. Started his own one. And then I think what saved him was the American Idol stuff. But he was told, like, before he started, the guy told him, like, are you happy to not make anything for the next 20 years? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, this is what I love to do. And the guy was like, okay, fine. Then, well, you've got a job here. And then he was like, that's how it was. It was no, like, waiting every day, like, when am I going to pop? When am I going to pop? He was willing to sit it out for that long.
I think, like, another very, very important factor to consider is, in terms of, like, would you continue? The idea of continuing in itself, a lot of the time needs external validation, because a lot of creatives want to do so many different things. When I say creatives, I just mean and storytellers in general like to tell their stories in so many different ways, right? So when you're jumping from one to another, there is a certain degree of lack of focus or lack of specialism that I think everybody needs to have something that they're quite good at. That you don't have to be a master but it's something you're quite good at before you start branching out into other things. And then like the thing that you're quite good at always kind of reflects in everything else you do. Like graphic design is that for me. Like when I'm like video editing, for example, I put in like little graphic design edits that I wouldn't have looked cool if I didn't go have all those years of graphic design experience, you know. And then also putting things out, there's a sense of accountability. Like you put something out, and it's like people are expecting you to show up. So then you have more pressure on yourself to start showing up more, and that kind of creates a good cycle as well. As long as it's not too much. So it's really weird, but it's interesting. It's like there's like almost a bitter pill to swallow, where it's like if you don't put something out, people aren't really expecting something of you. And that's where a lot of times where when I say I'm burnt out or whatever, it's more the case that I don't want to put something out that just looks a bit whack, right? And then nobody rates it, right? And then that maybe demotivates me further. So that whole thought process in itself stops me from creating it from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So it's a weird one. Like for example, the Van Gogh, like he was saying, like there was a time when artists were getting paid a lot in that period, artists getting paid a lot. They'll get paid like a big chunk, and they'll just be balling off from. They'll just be balling off. They'll just be drinking, smoking, going to brothels, all this stuff for like months on end. And then when they're like the money's run out, then they're like, all right, time to create again. Whereas he had a mad work ethic in it. He was like, I'm gonna create by any means every single day. And he's like, I know. Like there's a quote. He was like, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, I know if I just keep creating, there's gonna be a point where every single day, everything I make is gonna be like banging, basically. So, and he probably reached that point, innit? But he went mad through all of this stuff, innit? Like, of course, because he just probably wasn't bulling enough, innit? So it's a weird like a paradox. Like you got kind of balance that, innit? Like people's expectations of you, but also
I think even in YouTube, this like they say, well, I think now Mr. Beast has got to a point where people quote him as like the YouTube success. Where it's like you got to make your first 100 videos, regardless of like how it looks, what happens. You've just got to make 100 videos, and by then you would have definitely have changed. Either you would have started the snowball effect, or you'd actually learn, okay, this is how to actually make a good video. You know what I mean? But if you make a video here and you make a video there, and you're like every single one, and you're thinking, why is this not kicked off yet? That's just the worst way of doing it. Especially I think with the creative pursuit, you've got to be very patient. But now it's like very hard to be patient with all this Instagram and this and that, where it's at a drop of a publish where the algorithm might just take it off, or it might not, and now it's got these extra factors of play, you know, of like, if only the algorithm picked me, I could have, you know. But it's not. Sometimes it just might be your quality, or sometimes it just might be because you're doing 2 videos a year, you know, and it's like.
So, like, before we move on into these people that I've been mentioning, so, but something that I enjoyed recently was. Funnily enough, going back through our old writing. So back in the day, we used to do writing challenges on the podcast, where we used to set out a challenge every week, like a theme. For example, there was one about homelessness. There was one about the future. There was one, I don't remember. There was one about poetry, like write a poem about something. I don't know if it's crime or something. And then every week we had like a Google Drive. We would let people submit. I think we even had a group chat at one point.
Yeah, we did.
Like, we had a WhatsApp group chat where I would send in the theme, and then everybody would write. And like, funnily enough, it was getting populated. Like every week, the drive, people were like, I didn't think anybody was gonna submit. And we started the channel because we wanted to make sure that we start writing more ourselves in it and like improve our writing. And then that never saw the light of day from 2018 till about I don't know, a couple of weeks back. Did you ever go back through that folder?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, not a lot to be fair. But like if I was on the drive and sometimes I saw it, I'd be like, oh, this is it felt like a whole different time. Yeah,
but like how often would you say you saw it since 2018?
Probably like twice.
Yeah, like there's some very solid story plots that we had written. Like within 1 week, we had to write on a certain theme, like a 1-pager, and then a couple of them, like I had written a whole story plot that could easily be made into a film.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So I was reading through that and I was like, I never put this out there, but it's very interesting. Funnily enough, in the next episode we're going to be covering writing stories, story worthy by Matthew Dix. It's weird that we covered this book at this time because like if we covered this book at another time where I hadn't looked at that Google Drive and seen that folder, or we hadn't had that conversation a couple weeks, last week was it with our other friend about writing a play, whatever, like this wouldn't have hit. Like it's crazy, like the coincidences and stuff like that. It's crazy, man. But yeah, man, like I also almost felt a sense of satisfaction that that we had never seen those things again. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, it feels like when you open up your old like school box or something, you see some trinkets in there that you forgot about.
No, but like that's what that's the feeling. But it's also like I didn't cringe at the writing. I wasn't like this is shit. I wasn't like this is whack.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know why, but I felt a certain sense of satisfaction out of that. And it wasn't like I'm gonna definitely go bang out these books right now. Yeah.
But it's good because usually sometimes you go back to your writing, especially many years later. And you're like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
You know, but if it held up, then that means it's actually pretty good. But
it's almost like I wouldn't mind going back to doing that again, where I'm not even putting stuff out there. Like it's just archived somewhere. I don't know why, but I felt like a certain level of satisfaction out of that. So I don't know. I feel like we should start something up like that again.
Oh yeah, 100%. And obviously invite our people, of course, to join us. You know, we'll create a link.
It's no fun if it's just ourselves.
Yeah.
So that was the funny thing, like hearing other people's stories. Like obviously they're friends, but it's not like friends that we knew like deep or we had seen regularly. So like guys from like Scope, funnily enough, from Manchester, sending us random stories, and
it's good to see their thought process through how they write and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But any comments on that before I move on?
Nah, not really, to be fair. I mean, that good old stuff, I haven't really checked out. I might do. But I think it just goes to show we've just been doing
some of the stuff was class. Some of the stuff was class. But anyways, so I've been talking about Vincent van Gogh a bit. So I'm going to briefly talk about them. I think Van Gogh and Melville were the most interesting to me out of the bunch that I mentioned. Like you mentioned Fitzgerald. I think that one was interesting. But like a lot of them had success, like public success, like during their careers, you know that. So I'll start with Melville, for example. Herman Melville, the guy that wrote the Moby Dick, the bloody big whale that was getting hunted. I've never read it, funnily enough. Or I don't know if there's a film or a play out. I've never read it or checked out what it's about. But as I was researching, I found out that like the guy was like 26 or something when he first published his first novel. Apparently this is in the Victorian era or whatever. And like people loved this stuff. Like he dropped like 4 back-to-back bangers that the whole public, like internationally, he was just like, yo, this is the guy.
This is the guy,
And then he started like becoming closer with one brother who was another writer. Like that guy was like saying, man, you gotta do more philosophical stuff. The first few books that he was writing was like all adventure kind of books, you know, like thrillers kind of thing. So the guy's like, oh, come on, man, you're like, I know you, and you're a deep guy, man. You can like try and educate the people a little bit, like get them thinking about philosophy, you know, get them thinking about sociology, all of this stuff. So he did start thinking about all this stuff and started talking about he's like, oh man, that's a good idea, man. I know, man, I need to expand my horizons, you know. So this is at the age of 26, he's published like 4 books. Or he's from 26 to like 30, he's like published like 4 books, and then all of them have hit. Like, so he's not like a starving artist. He's made bread, innit? Like he's made bread, and sometimes that's in that area. They used to, when you'd write a book, the editors would, or the publishers would see it, and then they'll be like, some of this stuff won't fit this audience. Some of this stuff won't fit this audience. So, but you don't have a choice. But they'll go and remove stuff. They'll go and remove stuff from the books, right? And then the books like looks like it's a completely different book. So basically, he wrote for an American audience most of the time, but the British system at that time was the leading system, right? So like literature.
Was he American or British?
He was American. So British literature was thriving, right? So the British people were the ones that are holding the standards, basically. So if a British reviewer said, yo, this is whack, the whole world would be like, this must be whack. And sometimes it's not like they're just saying this is whack. They'll be like, this is whack, and this guy is crazy. They'll write your name off. They'll be like, this is whack, and put him in hospital. Straight.
Look this brother up.
Look him up. It's that bad. So basically, he started thinking, let me make this Moby Dick story very like complicated and detailed, and talk about philosophy. Captain Ahab's the main character. The main character is being written about. but it's from the perspective of a guy called Ishmael. He's just a ship boy. He's a little young boy on the ship where he's just narrating the whole story. He's talking about how much Captain Ahab lost his leg or something to the whale.
Yeah.
So he wanted to kill that whale by hook or by crook, right?
We're gonna kill that whale.
Like, he was, I'm gonna get that. He had a poster of it on the wall every day. I'm gonna get you, man. You know. And then Ishmael's like the story is like written from Ishmael's perspective, basically talking about the like he's asking Captain Ahab questions and all this, like why like why do you want to kill it so bad? Like so he's talking about all this philosophy and stuff, but also. The guy's talking about whale anatomy. Like he's going like Captain Ahab was like, I know exactly what part I'm gonna get, how I'm gonna get it, how I'm gonna slice it up.
Thinking about this.
Yeah, so Herman Melville, the author, he's written all about this stuff. Yeah, but it's not like
how do you know this is the whale?
He was this is the funny thing. This is what I'm saying. All these creatives that like they were in all sorts of different careers. He was a sailor at one point.
No, I mean how would Ahab know this is the whale?
Because he's killed other whales before and stuff. Like, how did he know it's that specific whale? Yeah. Apparently, it was a wham whale, and he's like the biggest thing I've ever seen. Basically,
it's that one.
Yeah, it's that guy right there. Yeah. So yeah, funny enough, like I said, the author he was a sailor as well. Like he had experience. I don't remember if it was the Navy or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But he knew his way around the sea basically. Yeah. So Herman Melville knew what he was talking about basically. So while he's doing like all this, he's telling a story about it. Like it was the writing was very complicated, and it was like one of them stories where you're bouncing from one character to another, and then you're bouncing to like he's telling details about the world that he's built. He's telling details about the whale, the anatomy, all this stuff. So people at that time were like, "What the hell is this nonsense?" We just wanted the straight story, man. What is this? And it's long. Apparently, the guy used to write for days, isn't it? Yeah. So then the book is hella long. He published it and he sends it over to his boy, and his boy is gassed. Yo, this is amazing, genius, right? And then the book gassed. They send it to the publisher, and the publisher's like, yo, what? You know what? I ain't gonna say nothing because you know what? You done your job before. Let me just see what the public thinks. But in the meantime, I'm gonna remove some stuff from there that I think the public won't like, really. And like one of those things was like the whole epilogue, which is a very key. Point, which is a spoiler alert, but basically Ishmael survives. A few other people die. I'm not gonna say who, but the epilogue doesn't say that. The epilogue says that, but the epilogue gets completely removed by the publisher or the editor. So then half the world thinks, what the hell is this story? It doesn't even look complete, blah, blah. And then they basically brand Melville as an idiot. Like they just say, yo, this guy is washed. He's done. And he's eating up his last bit of bread now. He's all his money that he's made from his previous novels. And he's thinking, what the hell? I thought this book was genius. And this is like, the Americans love him, but then the British guys were just like apparently there was an actual newspaper article. The headline was like, Melville is crazy.
I just know what these British guys were thinking, man.
You see what they do to Raheem Sterling and all this? Melvin is well
crazy. Rashford helps the kids, but can't even help his team.
The British guys were like, yo, this guy is crazy. So the American guys were like, we gotta lock him up. Lock him up, call that day. So then he's like, nah, man, I got something else cooking, man. So within 1 year, he publishes another book. So it's another flop. It's another flop in the eyes of the public. Stinker. Another stinker. This time he was trying to go back to his roots. He was trying to make it an adventure thriller. It's another stinker. By the age of 32, his career is washed. He's done.
Did he not get back to the top after that?
He didn't get back to the top. His career is finished. You know what he did after? He became a customs officer in the ship port for the rest of his life. That was it. So
and it was Moby Dick that killed him.
And then no, he just died in normal causes.
No, I mean like not the whale, brother.
I know, I'm playing. But
if it was a whale,
get him to life. Oh, if he died from a whale, wow.
Hey, that
would have been
crazy. But as in
insult to injury,
the book that is the book for him. His opus maximus.
The best book he's ever written ruined his career. And he never recovered from it.
That's wild.
And after he died, a couple of years later, all these different publishers and stuff, they started reading through it again, and they're like, "Ooh, this guy, man, he was ahead of his time. He was spitting." And then that's how it became popular. And that's like just one case where I'm just like, that kind of put things into perspective for me, because I was like, yo, like he was already successful, and he put something out that he thought was going to be even more successful, and his whole career derailed as a result of that.
No, of course.
Which is crazy. Like I tried to draw parallels between that and like people like nowadays, and like if there's any popular figures that we know that have done stuff like that. So like, funny enough, we're talking about Stormzy before. Like now, how's Stormzy's work gonna be received? Who knows?
Yeah, of course.
Who knows?
But for him, I mean, like, it wasn't even a piece of work that he put out. You know what I mean? It's just.
It's
but
different.
like, speaking of Stormzy, I was listening to one interview. I think it was on like Apple or something, and there was one guy who was talking about the fact that we just talk about the industry of like albums and how like crazy these guys have artists working and all this kind of stuff, right? And he was basically saying that only new things actually change culture. If you make something that's similar to like what's already out there, like what's considered pop, it will make it, but then it will just live and die there. But then the stuff that on the surface of it is very sort of similar, like you know what this would sound like, but then the depths of it is something that's completely different to you, that you go, okay, whoa, I don't like the way this sounds. What is this? That stuff actually tends to live longer than the stuff that's just baked in this time's generation. It's like, why, I forgot who was saying it. Somebody was saying like, when you're writing, don't put like current timestamps of like things that are trending now, because then it won't live in the future. And it's kind of like that. Like sometimes somebody will make something like Moby Dick that was now it's considered like a staple, you know, but at the start it's just like nobody likes change. Like so much so that I watched one video in the 70s or was it the 80s where the £1 coin was coming out. And then these people were hating on it because it was new to them. They were like, "This, what am I gonna do?" Can you imagine if somebody's got £90 of these coins in their pocket? It's like nobody would ever do that. And they wanted to have just the note and
the bills.
And you see how useful it's become, you know. But they hated the idea of change. They was like, "No, we're not gonna do that. We hate it." But then as time goes on, it just shows that you know sometimes it's necessary. And like, back to what I was saying, like that generation might not be feeling what you're doing. You know, you might like it, but you might not know you're liking it for the next generation or the generation after that. You know, and that's the craziest part. You know,
that's the funny thing. It's like a lot of these people that I'm going to be talking about, a lot of them had success after because that they were ahead of their time.
That's
because the culture of the time didn't fit with what they were trying to do. And a lot of the time they were just like bored. Like, come on, man, it's like everybody's doing this. Why can't I try something different? So it's crazy to see that, man. So that's where, in the pursuit of success, do you really need to think about what people think about? This is why I wanted to ask you before and then tell you a few stories and then ask you again. But obviously, you don't have to change your mind.
No, I was going to say is because I was saying it before.
And it's not something that you can really set your mind on anyway.
No, I was saying like before the sleeper generation. You know, like we might be putting out stuff.
Who's your sleeper generation?
That's what I'm saying. We don't know yet.
We don't know.
Like we might be putting it out, and then people are used to certain type of sound or like certain type of thing in the air and funk, and then they're like, this is just weird. I've never heard of this before.
Are there any clothing trends that you see now that you'd have thought, oh, this is shocking stuff back in the day? Or is there anything that you see now that you're just like, why is this popular?
It will forever be boot cuts.
Boot cuts?
Boot cuts are just like, they keep coming back, you know, like a rash.
With the Timbs.
That's what I'm saying. I think maybe it was because I don't have the physique for boot cut and Timbs. It looked like I'm wearing a Maoist if I ever had boot
because you can't do it.
It's just like, baby, man. Boot cut and Timbs, but not boot cuts with like small shoes. That's what some people are rocking. You know? But now they got the big chunky shoes and stuff
everybody's
like
rocking
that.
the chunky shoes.
You know what I mean? And it looks like, I could never. But I'm thinking, am I that generation that's like used to just trousers that fit?
Yeah, you know it's crazy. I was in Egypt and I was seeing all these boot cuts with like chunky fit, like shoes all over Egypt.
Yeah,
and I was thinking, like these lot picked up hella quick. I would have thought they would be very resistant to that idea because they love their skinny jeans over there. It's funny.
No, of course I can imagine.
But like,
so if they pick that up,
all the young bucks, are all wearing like the chunky trousers and chunky shoes.
And the chunky shoes, And what's wild as well is like, for example, like Kanye kind of understood this kind of stuff, where he was like, he was just going off on a tangent, but he was like, who said the shoes like have to be shaped the way they are?
Yeah.
With like a tongue. Why do they have to have a tongue? What about if we just had shoes that didn't have laces and we just put them on and stuff like that? And people, what the hell is this guy talking about now? But now it's like, you know, he's got those like kind of sliders that everybody likes.
He's influenced a lot of people to go out.
Yeah, and everything's that changes. Like you can't change culture without making something different. It has to be something new. If you want to fit in, then obviously you know there's one way the cookie is made all the time.
Yeah.
If you want to actually like influence culture, then you've got to make something different. But that comes with the price of you might not see the change.
You know, one of the funny things, like why I picked up sewing, because like I actually really appreciate fashion, but I'm always like, I'll get around to it. For myself, I'm always like, I'll get around to it later. Yeah. Like, I'll go like one day and I'll just like sort out my wardrobe, and I'm gonna always look clean all the time, innit? Yeah. But for some reason I never get to it. But yeah, it's I think fashion is a very interesting one, because I feel like right now, because of the internet, we reached a peak in fashion where everybody has some certain level of expression where nobody else really. I would say the only thing that is universally criticized right now is like ultra skinny jeans. Like, I think that's about it. Yeah, but you can pretty much wear anything else, and you're nobody's gonna bat an eyelid. You know, it's funny, but I was mentioning that because I saw this guy on Twitter. He's got a big account. It's a fashion account, isn't it? Like he goes and like he'll like pick out a certain like thing from the red carpet or whatever, like an outfit, and then he'll break it down into a thread. Like, why is this worn this way? Like Donald Trump's suits and stuff, and then he'll say like, this is why this is baggy, even though it's like a $5,000 Italian suit. This is baggy because it's laid down this way. This is a certain weight of the fabric. So people are always like, and he also very good at like jumping on like not mocking people, but like he's good at making joke at people in a kind of classy way. So people were like started getting to a point where I saw something like last week. They were like, because he's always saying I can make something look good, like no matter what, in it basically. Yeah. So people were like, I know something you can't. Yeah, they pull out the skinny jeans, the extra muscular legs.
Oh god damn, yeah. Oh yikes!
I didn't see any response to that, funnily enough, from him, but I'm waiting for it, man. I'm waiting for it. But yeah, I'll talk a bit more. So you mentioned Scott Fitzgerald as well. It's funny because like all these people, like they kind of had a background in like what they were talking about. So The Great Gatsby, like him, like the way he made it, and then some of the characters in it. Like he talked about, like obviously he was in the army himself in World War World War One or World War Two. Well, I think he was in World War One, and then his book didn't gain recognition until after World War Two for The Great Gatsby. And like obviously he served in the army as well, so he had experience. So it's very interesting to hear that.
And on top of that, he fell in love with a girl, but she didn't rate him because he was a bum. Yeah, and then he was like, okay, fine, well, that's when he started mashing in the work to become a successful writer, and he did become a successful writer. And then he got the girl, which is similar to like Gatsby. She said, well, he couldn't get her because he was a bum, so he had to become who he became to do it. And then his books just stopped hitting, and then he became that like struggle. A drunkard.
The struggle brings the creativity out.
Oh man, the guy was going through it towards the end. He was in Paris. That's where he started writing up. But he was just drinking, smoking, the whole lot. And then he put out The Gatsby, and then he died without it being massive. And then afterwards, started to get that recognition. People were like, yo, this is actually, you know. And it was funny enough. It was quite poetic how he was talking about the American dream in The Great Gatsby and how much of a facade it is. Which is what happened to him, basically. He got the brunt of he started with a great part of the American dream. Credit here, all that 1930s bust and all that kind of stuff, and finito, and then the downside of it all, you know what I mean? And all of that just poured into his art and just became a timeless masterpiece.
Yeah, so like that's the funny thing is like some of them were bums, some of them were coming from rich families. Some of these people that I want to mention, and some of them come from very poor backgrounds. And then you got like the likes of Vincent van Gogh. I'm gonna give more detail in that regard. But Emily Dickinson, considered the reclusive poet, she published she published like fewer than 12 poems while alive, because she was like extremely anxious. She like never left the house, but like she was writing all the time, but the publishing the writing style at that time was completely different from what she liked. So like her poems became very much more appreciated after she died. That's one. And then there's Franz Kafka, who wrote the book called Metamorphosis, which is inspired like loads of different like sci-fi and fantasy. But he wanted all his manuscripts burnt after his death. Like he requested that basically. He said, I want all my stuff burned. Like, because I'm like, he basically was like, I don't give a damn about what happens after basically. I don't want any of you guys to, because he had a big like daddy issues. His dad was always like beating him up, all this stuff. So like he had like a really like negative experience with his family. So he was always seeking external validation. Like to the day he died, like he was always like worried about what his father thinks about him, which is kind of sad. But it just shows it goes to show like different backgrounds of all these people. You can't really say, like, as I was reading through like Van Gogh, I found out that his brother actually supported him throughout his whole career. So he was never struggling. Van Gogh, Melville as well, he had already made it like by 26, like he was making billions. Like, so some of these people weren't struggling at all, but it seemed like they were struggling. With the way people say, oh, they only achieved success after. That's
but wasn't Van Gogh in like one asylum for a minute?
He had all sorts. I'm gonna give a few of those.
I think
points.
Van Gogh was struggling, bro.
No. He put himself in.
I think you know, because he had.
I'm talking about coming from poverty. Like, a lot of them weren't coming from poverty. A lot of them had good backgrounds, which allowed them to be creative. But if you, so I was kind of seeing that in the beginning. I was seeing that as a trend, and I was like, "What? All these people, they were all right. You know, they had like they didn't really have to struggle to be creatives. You know that. But some of them really did struggle. Some of them really struggled. Like Franz Kafka, he was a very big, very good writer as well. Like his friend Max Brod ignored his wishes to burn his books, and then after that he became very popular. His books became like very well renowned as well, and especially in like the European world. And then you've got Herman Melville, like I mentioned. Moby Dick was a massive failure. The guy basically gave up. He literally said, I'm done with writing after that, which is crazy.
It's crazy.
Like, who knows? If he stayed alive for another 20 years after his death, who knows? He might have seen success in his books. But yeah, and then Van Gogh. So why I mentioned Van Gogh the most, because I personally resonate with his art style the most. Like when I think of art, like paintings and stuff, I think like he's the top of the top for me. Like, I can't think of anyone who's better like creatively, because like all his different styles, like it was so interesting reading up a bit more about him. So the guy was like first of all, like he was a lover boy, and like the guy would fall in love in like 5 minutes every time. The guy met a woman, the guy would fall in love with her. And he loved the project. So if someone's struggling, like a woman pregnant, she got one kid, she's out on the streets, one time he was
that's all me.
It's just his boys, hey boys, wait up. Wait up, man. I got something to do.
On the downtrodden.
Nah, he loves the project, bro. That was like he became a minister, right? So he's becoming a minister to help with the church. He became quite devout. Yeah. They gave him a whole yard, fam, and then he saw this lady, you know, feeding her. He was feeding her. He said, "You take my yard, and I'll go live in the sticks, like a mining colony or something, where like they had mining shacks where the miners could live." He said he was going to do ministry work, like teaching them about Christ and stuff. He said, "I'm gonna go live with them in the mines." So do you know what the church done? They said, "This guy's making us look bad." They fired him for that, even though he was trying to do a good deed. And you know what the woman did? She said, "One you bought," because she was selling her body to survive before. After he got fired from his church job, he couldn't provide the house anymore. She said, "One you." What do you think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna keep on selling my body. It's a madness. But yeah, he was like he had all sorts in it, but he came from quite a like a notable family, so his family were already like art sellers and art collectors. So like they had a background of that. Like, and then his brother became very like well known in Paris because of that. And then so like Van Gogh, like he went all over the place. Like he traveled all sorts of places, and he was always painting. And like he was living in Brixton at one point. I was like, what the hell was Van Gogh doing in Brixton? Yeah,
South London,
Brixton.
I think that's where it all went wrong.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, he was doing it in all sorts of places: Brixton, Amsterdam, Paris, all this. Like meeting all sorts of people. And then his brother, the whole time, was paying him every month, supporting his career every month. So he made a deal. His brother just rated him. His brother knew he was a genius, basically. But even though like he had all sorts of mental health issues, he had syphilis, gonorrhea, all this. But his brother was just like, nah, man, my brother's the guy. I know he's talented. Like I know he's gonna make it. But poor guy, like throughout his whole career, his brother was supporting him, and then. But he didn't really have anything that blew up, basically. He was living with artists and stuff, and he was trying to send paintings to his brother to try and sell every time, but none of them were like really popping like that. And then later on, like he's having all these philosophical issues, like, oh, I don't want to be a burden to people, like so I have a lot of psychotic episodes where, to the point where he got put into asylum, like you said. So like, but he was still painting throughout. Like the Starry Nights was painted in an asylum, bro. Like he painted like sense. That famous painting. Yeah, he was in asylum at that point. And then his brother had a baby. And he named his baby Vincent, and then like he was like super honored because of that. Like he broke down crying, and like he really loved his brother's family. And then one day, like his brother was just like, yo, like he was just writing a normal letter to him, like, yo, man, I'm sorry, man, but. Like, you know what, actually, let me say before this. So the air cut enough story, like he just became boys with another painter. And, like they rated each other, all this blah blah blah, and they always like helping each other learn about the expressionist movement. Like he like developed his style because of this other guy, basically. And then they had a few fights because of Van Gogh's bad mental health. And then one day the guy was like, yeah, Bundy, man, I'm out, innit? Like, I thought you're my boy. And then basically Van Gogh was like, nah, man, you think basically they had a big fight. The guy left, and then the guy's walking down the streets in the rain, whatever. He's hearing footsteps running behind him. He turns around, it's Van Gogh with a razor blade.
Damn, yeah.
Van Gogh, a razor blade, and then they just look at each other. This is literally how it's told. They look at each other. He's like, what you trying to do right now, basically? And then Van Gogh basically is like, nah, man, I can't do this. He basically like came to his senses and he walked off, and they never spoke to each other again after that. And then what Van Gogh did that night, he went, he's like, I'm an idiot. He goes, cuts off his own ear. Yeah. Cuts off his own ear. He goes, hands it to someone, say, look after this. He literally says that. When I say someone, he goes to a brothel and he tells them.
Oh, God, damn, Vincent.
He's a madman. Yeah, he hands it over and then he goes home. And then apparently the police come to his house to take him to the hospital.
He was visiting there like, Starbucks or something. He was like, cafe.
There was no boycott there. Hey. Oh, boy.
Goodness.
Yeah, nah, he was a madman. And then the police came to his house to take him to the hospital because they were like, nah, you're moving mad now. Let's take you to the hospital and get you looked after. And then, his brother has a baby, blah, blah, blah. And one day his brother sent him a letter. The whole time his brother's been paying his money every time. His brother's like, oh man, I'm struggling right now. It's not really selling too good. But I'm still gonna send you your money. Like, don't worry about it. So then he just bugs out. Van Gogh just bugs out. He just like, nah, man, I don't want to be a burden on anybody. He grabs a gun, but shoots himself in the stomach. Shoots himself in the chest. Yeah. And he's luckily he doesn't. He misses. He does. He misses. And
what does he miss?
He misses his heart, so he doesn't die straight away. Right. So then he goes to the doctor. He's living.
Tell me you went.
Nah, he didn't go to the brothel. Don't worry. Imagine that. That's a hungry brother. But yeah, he was living with the doctor's family. The doctor saw that. He came. He treated him straight away. He called his brother like, "Yo, you gotta come. Like your brother bugged out." He comes, and then later on, he's like to his brother, "Oh man, this felt good. Like seeing you again. Like this feels like back in Holland. Like take me back home." And like his brother's like, "Yeah, man, 100%. I agree." And then he's making his way back to Holland, and then he dies. Basically, that's how Van Gogh dies. Basically, from the injuries and from the injury that he caused himself from the madness. And the sad thing is, his brother died like a few months later as well.
No way.
Yeah, and then after that, his brother's wife. She clocks like some of the paintings. She's like, "Yo, this stuff is amazing!" Like Van Gogh's paintings, and she goes around Europe trying to find his paintings and secure them, so she can sell them. And then that's when it suddenly blew up. Like he became massive. And like, it was even funny because his mother was still alive when he died. She burned all his paintings.
No way.
She's like, "I don't want nothing with this guy. He's bug out," basically. But his sister-in-law made him famous. Like he wouldn't have been well known because of that.
This is sensational stuff.
Yeah, but like you reading about his history and stuff, like it makes you consider the pursuit of creativity and
of course
the fact that he the times when other guys in his period were really relaxing, chilling with any kind of money they got, but he wasn't. He just kept on going with the belief that I'm gonna make amazing stuff, basically. Like that kind of put things into perspective for me as well. Like ultimately, I think that internal validation should be higher than external validation at all times, and then when you have that balance, then you're in a more healthy state, I guess. Like if you were to die in that kind of state, I think I'll be a lot more happy that way.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think the most beautiful scene is that Doctor Who one where he comes and he sees how much people appreciate his stuff, and the guy started crying. I tell you what, that was the most emotional scene I think I've seen on television in a minute.
Doctor Who doing there, huh?
Hey, I was thinking, this is the best gift you could ever give someone.
Who was in the writing room cooking that one?
That's what I'm saying. I guess it just goes to show, man. I think for me personally, it's a case of striving after this whole creative thing or these pursuits, because that's what I genuinely enjoy the most. I guess whether or not I get to see that success is something that I have to, I guess, accept, because otherwise that means I'm either doing it for the money and that doesn't continue on. Because let's say if somebody's like, okay, well done, you've got a publishing deal, now you have to write 4 books. Suddenly writing books isn't fun anymore. It's a daunting task that has to pop, because after those 4 books, if you don't make good books, you're off the payroll, and then you're back to square one. But if you don't care about that stuff, you just keep on doing it, you keep on trudging along, and then in the pursuit of excellence as well, by constantly honing your craft and mastering. I think that goes for everything, you know what I mean? Whoever's listening to this, maybe at work, outside of work, doing something that they might not enjoy, always try to make sure that you're giving yourself a chance to be able to do the thing that you would enjoy, because that will compound in the long run. And if it does work out for you, sensational. If it doesn't work out for you, then at least you tried. But are you going to be happy with the fact that it might not work out? If you are, then we continue on the hero's journey. And if you're afraid that it won't, then I guess we'll have to see you behind at the village.
God damn.
Yeah, I mean, we'll
see you in the rear view mirror.
Yeah. And then, we'll either come back to the village with a pot of gold. Or you'll be like, damn, I told you so.
Cool. Yeah. So, this is a very interesting episode about the idea of success and what it means for you, and success after death. I hope you guys think about it a bit for yourselves as well. What does success really mean for you? Would you continue doing it? Would you continue doing whatever you're doing if you knew you're going to die at some point and you weren't going to be successful in that? Think about it. This has been your boys from Inspyre, Mohammed and Shamaki, on the PaperTrails podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for listening to the PaperTrails podcast. If you like this episode, please leave a review, comment, like, and subscribe. And be sure to follow us on all our socials.
Keep moving, keep growing, keep learning. See you at work.